We are back. It's the Good Contractor Podcast. And I want to call out that for the first time, Luke is wearing Good Contractor merch. Let's give him a round of applause. See? Look at it.
Yeah.
This is called being a team player.
The dynamic duo.
That's right. So we have Matt Danskin joining us today. Luke actually was the first contact here. So I heard you two met each other at Win the Storm. You guys chatted a little bit, talked about a few things, and then we got a chance to talk with Matt, who's from Restoration Referral System. And what I thought was cool, aside from the whole referral system and how to, get leads and do all those things. And this is not a business podcast, but what I thought was neat was, he started building houses with his dad, and just his whole story was cool and how he's trying to help people. So without further ado, I say we just let in Matt Danskin, and I'm not going to tell his. Yeah, I'm not going to let him. I'm not going to tell his story. I'm going to let Matt tell his story. I was just trying to get it off to an intro. But Matt, I was telling Luke, and by the way, thank you so much for joining us on the Good Contractor Podcast. But I was telling Luke that typically, I'm running around trying to book guests and find people, and Luke and you spoke before you and I spoke. So this is a big, you and Luke have had conversations. I know you've had conversations with folks at Company Cam like Michael Gogan from days gone by. So, it feels good to be on the. I'm on the newish end of.
You're just along for the ride.
I am. I'm just.
You're
just
along
here
for the ride.
Just here for the fun. But Matt, welcome. How are you today, my friend?
Thank you so much. I am doing really good. I had one of the crazy things I didn't realize until this morning. I was looking at the invite and looking at your name. No, I knew we had the podcast. But looking at your name is John Tallman, and my director of media is named John Tillman.
Perfect.
So he's sitting here.
I think we're going to be best friends, is what I think. That's
Yeah. So he's TIL. Today I learned the internet acronym TIL. Tillman. And then you pronounce John's name wrong though. It's John Tallman.
No,
that's
it's
what
not
I say.
Man, it's Tallman. He likes to say tall man because he finds it just hilarious,
It's because I speak English, dude. You think you're named after a mun?
I don't know.
No, it's a man.
It's these kind of hard-hitting conversations that really kick off a podcast well, Matt, as you can tell.
For sure.
But no, we had a chance to talk. I know you have had a chance to talk with Luke, obviously, and a bunch of folks at Company Cam, like I was saying. But what I thought was cool, and what you and I talked about before, kind of on a discovery call, figuring out, your story is, I love how you grew up in the trades building houses with your dad and your whole origin story of getting into the trades. And so let's start there. Talk about just being in the trades in general. I know there's a long road to getting an MBA and going to college or a business administration degree and going to college, and then you had a housing crash. You had a lot of things going on to get you to where you were. But start at the beginning. Growing up building houses with your dad, how did that start? How old were you when you started helping him out?
Yeah, so my dad basically built houses every few years just for our own family, and then we would move to the next one every few years. So just built in some sweat equity. He that wasn't his main job, but that was just what he did on the side. And so from the time I was like 3 years old, I was running around construction sites. Ended up getting my first job outside of working for my dad between 7th and 8th grade, framing houses. So that was super sketchy, but that's what happened. And between like 9th and 10th grade, built a really big house with my dad. I got to really take part in every part of it, from the footers to shingles. I literally had to. That was the first roof that I installed, and I had my dad yelling at me from the ground because he's afraid of heights. And so I got to go up there and do it myself.
That's
sounds
amazing.
Like you had a great Father's Day yesterday. Real. Just like,
yeah.
Hey, Dad, finally going to talk to you about the trauma of... Now, you see all those memes of like... because of, getting mad at your kids when they're trying to like help you out and they're too slow. And in fact, side story, my mother-in-law sent me a country music album, which I don't really listen to country music, but I thought, okay, if she's taking time out of her day to send me this, then I'll check it out. And it was Fathers and Sons by Luke Combs.
Oh, yeah.
It's brand new. And there was a song in there about like hunting, and there was a line, it's like, he moves too much and he talks too loud, but something like, if the only thing we're killing is time, it's still worth it or whatever. And it's funny because you can live in that, like, you're kind of a bad worker or a bad hunting partner. But at the same time, I'm going to guess that your dad had you around there because he like at least basically enjoyed it. Do you look back fondly on the time that you were working together building things?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and actually, my dad just broke ground on what he's saying is his last house, and so
it's a tiny little wooden box.
Yeah,
that's it. And then from here,
your dad's real morbid.
Wow.
Sorry, keep going. Don't mind me.
No, we love working on that stuff, and I have 4 sons myself now, and so it's fun getting to get them involved in the process. I had one of my sons, my 4-year-old came in to help me finish some drywall in our remodel at our house right now. And he's like, "How do you learn how to do that?" And I was like, "My dad taught me." And he's like, "Will you teach me?" And I was like, "Oh, it's so precious, Yes. So I love it. It's something that I grew up thinking was like normal. And then now, like, I run into people that don't know the difference between like a regular screwdriver and a Phillips screwdriver. And I'm like, I don't know what that childhood must have been.
You're talking to a guy who failed his own company's social media test. They told me, what did they tell me? There was this game we did, and it's like you got to run and grab 5 tools out of the toolbox or whatever. And it was like, grab a Sawzall, these, and then they said a channel lock pliers, and I grabbed like a whatever, some other kind of pliers. Like, I'm supposed to know all these types of pliers apart. Like, I have like 2 sets of pliers at my house, and I just use them, even whether they fit the job or not.
Sure.
But that idea of building things, I am a person that likes building things a lot more than I like maintaining them. I really like building stuff.
Sounds like a startup CEO, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot more fun. But I remember because, my dad owned a roofing company, and we just kind of had tools around, we didn't have like a table saw. Like we didn't have, you were going to use a circular saw. If you needed to cut something, that's what you had. So you were going to figure it out. But just that, like the fact that you kind of could kind of help out, mess around, you almost don't realize how much you're learning. And I'm going to take this one more layer. There's a problem with finding qualified, like let's say laborers, just employees in the trades. Like, it's just a big problem. And there's an element of it which is like, it is hard work. Do people want to work hard? Like, if I know hiring people into roofing, like someone's sort of not working or whatever, and then they decide they want to work more, and then they start roofing, and some of them realize pretty quick, oh, I would rather do something way easier. I'll take a little less money if I don't have to work this hard. Like, that's always just a concern. But the other side of that is like kind of what what's your baseline? Because if you don't have to be, you're like, I guarantee at 17, you weren't a great finished carpenter or a great roofer, but you knew enough that the amount that you would need to be trained at that point is pretty low. And I've been thinking, like, how could we get more people to the point of kind of that, like that general experience that would be like, okay, you don't have to know everything, but you could at least start day one somewhere and contribute such that you could learn the rest. You could learn the rest on site versus the way we probably both started, which is like, you're just picking up trash, like that's what I was doing. Like, I got brought along to job sites and like was like, you stand on the ground and you pick up trash. You see trash, you pick it up. This place better be spotless when you're done. But So you were ahead of the curve. You were ahead of the curve in terms of knowing that. Did you go straight into like contracting, or did you take like side tracks?
No. So I got into, like he said, I went to school for business administration. I actually didn't finish that.
It's a make-believe degree anyway. I've got one.
Yeah. Long story short, I'm 3 credits shy, and refuse to ever go back. But I got out of school without finishing, and the housing market crashed, and I got into a couple of different sales careers, because sales, it's especially when it's all commission, generate your own leads. They're like, cool, I've got $25 into this guy. Let's see if he does anything. So jobs were easy to get, and really just had to figure it out. I had my first kid when I was 22, so not too much longer. And it was like, you need to go make something happen and, to feed your family.
Do you have a 12-year-old? Let's figure out how old you are. I'm reverse calibrating.
I have a 13-year-old.
13.
Yep.
That's impressive, man. Way to go.
Yep.
And so you started with sales. You had a kid. A kid is a big time motivator to not like sort of sit around on your ass. Because it's like, I got to do something. Like, I can just be like not doing anything, and I'd probably be okay with that. I definitely would be okay with that. But then when there's other tiny people completely relying on you, you got to move. So what were you selling, and were you good at it?
The first thing I ever sold was security systems. And I started off being pretty bad at it. But I am the way my brain works, like I have to solve for X. Like I have to do the math. I have to figure out what is the problem in this system, and let's correct it. So after doing that for about 6 months, I was in the top couple in the country, because I just figured out, what are the problems here? What do we need to do? We need to get in front of more people. Okay. How do we do that? We need to change our pitch here. How do we do that? And so I was kind of methodical, able to change that. I saw that industry was changing in a way that wasn't going to benefit me as a salesperson. So much was going online. Hey, buy this thing for $100 and it'll do all your security, instead of buying it from Matt for $1,500. So I got out of that. I went into car sales for a few years, and again, kind of same thing. I looking back on my career, it wasn't so clear, but now in hindsight, seeing like, oh, I was really bad at that, and then I just went out and found the information, and then I got pretty good at it.
And then somehow, some way, that led you back to the trades, because you ended up on a roof.
As I started to look through all the different lead sources and crunch my numbers, figure out what am I making per hour through all this, I found most everything was making me about $50 an hour. When I weighed in all the time that I'm spending, the commissions I'm making, the time I'm wasting with customers that don't go with me. I had one insurance agent that was referring me business, and realized that when I got those referrals, I closed them almost every single time. I didn't have any time sunk into finding that customer. And, he worked for a good carrier, so the claims got approved, and they got approved for a profitable number. And so all that kind of accumulated so that I was making about $500 an hour on those leads. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I realized, like, I need to devote as much of my time as possible into that type of business rather than the $50 an hour type of business.
Sure.
And, being able to do it where I can make great money, but also not doing anything shady, right? Like, the customers are getting great service because I'm not running around trying to find my next customer. I'm just taking care of the people that I'm working with. I'm able to install good materials, do all that sort of stuff without having to sacrifice on that because of all the inefficiencies of the other lead sources. So I focused in on how am I going to, the guy's name was Brian. How am I going to find 20 more Brians? How am I going to just completely cover myself up with the best referrals that I can? Was able to do that pretty successfully. My last year in Denver, I ended up doing almost 5 million, just as a little one-man show, which was great. That was, night and day different from anything that I had experienced before. Mentioned earlier, my 13-year-old and the ex-wife, she decided that she wanted to move halfway across the country and take our son with her. And so that meant that I was either leaving my referral network or my child, which when you put it that way is not at all a hard decision. But it was still kind of bittersweet of like, man, I finally figured out how to like crush it at roofing, and now I've got to leave. And as I was getting ready to leave town, I started having other contractors reach out to me, and they're like, hey, since you're leaving this market, you're not our competitor anymore. Like, let us in on the secret. And so I was able to start training other people, and they were able to replicate what I was doing. They were able to get the same thing. So for me, it was more about like, I struggled, for years in roofing, trying to figure out how to create those efficiencies, how to find that part of the market that would really reward me for my work. And once I finally did, it was like, man, these other guys are working nights and weekends. These other guys are missing out on their family and all that sort of stuff. If I can give them the hard fought lessons that I got to, they can replicate that as well. And they can have those same rewards.
I've been familiar with Restoration Referral System, trademark, I think, for a while now. I don't know, 5 years? Have you been at it for 5 years?
Just about. Yeah.
Yeah. For a long time. And it's interestingly, it's an extension of word of mouth, and it comes from the customer already has someone that they trust, their insurance agent. And then when their insurance agent, who they trust, refers you, who the insurance agent trusts, which you've got to be, I think, trustworthy. They're not going to keep referring you if you're screwing up their jobs and making their customers upset.
Correct.
But like you kind of created a next level word of mouth strategy, that I'm sure, like when it comes down to the execution, there's a lot of important steps. But at a high level, it's word of mouth. What I'm wondering is, did you have trouble? Were there insurance agents that you maybe contacted with that their customers like didn't trust, or that I'm curious, like, did you see that trust break down anywhere where it's like, oh, when this agent refers someone to me, I get like every one of those jobs versus this other agent, or, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, how did you see that like shake out?
You've got the common saying, like, people buy from people that they know, like, and trust, right? Mm-hmm. And insurance especially, like, you need to trust that person. If you're going to say, I'll give you a little bit of money in case something goes bad, you're going to give me the money back, right? So I think it's pretty rare that they don't trust that person. Usually they'll go somewhere else if they don't. Now, you will get into situations where they trust that insurance agent, and, they trust their recommendation for who to hire as a contractor. And then they find out, hey, my insurance company actually stinks and they're not treating me fairly. And they come out of the claims process, maybe not trusting them as well. But on that front end, it's pretty universal that they're trusting.
I love your journey because I think it's been cool that you've been able to, you had this perspective where you spent such quality time with your dad, and how even with you going to college and doing business administration, it's led you back to the trades just in a unique way. What does the future look like, and what is important for you as you're helping folks with your business? I realize you're not running a charity. You have to make a profit. You have to keep the lights on. But from just a human perspective and the relationships that you've made, what's that been like, and what does the future hold, and like, what are your long-term goals for your business and helping others that are looking for answers?
Yeah, Restoration Referral System's been a really cool journey over the last 5 years of just putting those tools into other people's businesses. And we've worked with, I think, about 500 companies at this point across the country. And so I love, yes, the business owner, they make money with it. I think that's cool. That's why they buy my program. But I love getting to work with the salespeople that are, they're the people that are going to make 80 grand or they're going to make 400 grand based on these couple of tweaks that we can make. That's what gets me excited about that. Here this past year, me and a couple other guys started Building Experts Institute. So doing more of the technical training in the roofing side. So John Tillman is one of my partners in that. And Matthew Mulholland. I don't know if you know him, but just a couple of guys that we found that really are passionate about the nitty gritty of insurance and claims and roofing and installation and all that sort of stuff, and being able to devote some work to solving those problems and then sharing it with the masses. So that, restoration referral system's kind of humming along. We'll continue working with people for that. I expect for a long time into the future. Building Experts Institute, we just released our 8th course. We release a new course every couple of months, and that has just been exploding. So I actually went out to Lincoln, Nebraska there to shoot an inspection course with Company Cam guys about 4 years ago, and we actually have an inspection course that's somewhat similar to what we did out there those years ago.
We've had a lot of people on the Good Contractor Podcast talk about those not going to college or skipping college and go to the trades, and there being a lack of laborers to do the trades, and and everyone kind of has a different perspective. You're seeing it from a coaching perspective of people getting into it. What do you see the future of the trades in terms of young people, in terms of people choosing that as a career path versus, going to college, getting a traditional bachelor's degree, et cetera?
Yeah, I think for guys our age, and I'd say the three of us are probably about the same age. It was a very heavy emphasis. It was like, if you don't go to college, you're worthless, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was like a lot of pressure, I feel like, to go to college. And now I'm seeing less and less of that. With kids of my own, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I really don't care if they go to college whatsoever. Mm. Like, I want to make sure that they are finding something that they can contribute to society, that they can make money with, that they will enjoy. And I think just societally, that's what people are seeing. And so, being able to see that you can make money in it, you can have a reasonable, balance in your life, you can enjoy what you're doing, you can create something is more and more attractive. So I love how, social media has even been highlighting that. There's different creators that are doing the stuff and getting people excited about that instead of sitting in a cubicle.
That's awesome. Well, we always ask this question. In your mind, how would you describe it? But what makes a good contractor? If I walked up to you and I said, Matt, tell me what makes a good contractor, what would your description be?
I would say a good contractor is someone with the integrity to make sure that their project is done right, whether their customer knows it or not. And maybe that's an anti-plug for Company Cam. They should know it. But even if they're not going to know one way or another, I kind of made the joke, customers wouldn't know if you installed their shingles upside down. But going in and fixing something that got done wrong that your customer doesn't know was wrong. That to me is just a marker, litmus test.
Well, if Luke installed the shingles, they probably were upside down, right, Luke?
No, okay. You know what happened? No,
what?
Hey, John.
What?
So I'm building a house. My brother's roofing company, White Castle Roofing, installed the roof, and it all looked good to me.
Tell me he didn't do it upside down.
No, not upside down. But there was supposed to be no pattern. They put on those Da Vinci, whatever. They're fake synthetic, kind of slate type things. And I was standing out on the balcony, looking up, and I was like, what is going on there? Because that's kind of all random. And then there's this 7 rows that go in this perfect line. And I was like, what is this? Now you can't see it from the ground anywhere. And then I text my brother and I'm like, I should have hired XYZ company, their competitor. I'm like, this kind of nonsense. And, I get back and we're talking about it at, it's our family because my dad, started this company and my brother's now the CEO. And, my brother's like, you're never going to see it. It doesn't matter. It's not going to leak. And my dad's like, no, we should rip that off and fix it. We're having this debate. And that is a hard question, though. Like, what standard do you go to? And then what expense do you go to in terms of, I don't know, things like this? Like, maybe the only time I'm going to see this is when I'm standing on my own balcony looking at it, versus anyone else around the house is not going to see it. But I remember my dad's business partner that he started this business with just personally coming by and ripping off shingles that I was putting on. And just like, nope, that ain't going to work. Like, that's not good enough. And then sometimes he would throw money in the dumpster. He'd like take a $5 out of his wallet and like throw it in the dumpster, like to really make the metaphor crystal clear that we were throwing away money. Like if we had like thrown away 2/3 of a piece of gutter apron, it's just like he'd fire a $5 in the dumpster. And that's kind of stuff. But once you internalize that, and it's weird because with Company Cam, that's one of the first things we saw was that our quality of our work, like our inspections, went up because it's one thing. Look, you are cutting in this vent. It's the example I always use because it's what happened. I know what it looks like for like a 505 roof vent to be installed properly, right? And to be installed like nice, where it looks really good and all the lines are cut straight and it looks nice. Most people, you can't see that from the ground very well. Most people don't even know or care. But once we were getting all these pictures flowing through in Company Cam, and the guys on these crews, they'd be like making fun of each other. Like, is that the first vent you've ever installed? That's terrible, And it was like, instead of now just the customer being the audience, it was everyone else who knows what good is became the audience. And that sort of like shame of not wanting to be the person getting made fun of actually like raised the quality bar for our business. But so anyway, I've got a bone to pick with my family roofing business
That's awesome.
over my roof.
And
but I don't think it's going to leak.
Do you know what makes more sense now? When you send me those, like when I don't cut the podcast the way you like it, you send me those photos of you dropping money into a dumpster, and now this completely makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
That I cost you money instead of making Company Cam money. I got it now. This is great.
I do need a robot to edit these shorts. I think the quality would go up.
Before
we
wrap,
wrap,
going to replace me any day, Luke. It's going to happen.
Hopefully me first. Hey, before we go, wrap this thing up, Matt.
Yeah.
How much are you benching these days? Come on.
Okay.
Don't hold out.
Right.
Not a lot.
What? Yeah, not a lot. What is that, like 400 pounds?
No, I had, so last year I actually had an injury to my elbow that I was bench pressing a mind-shattering 20 pounds, as in a 20-pound bar, an extra light bar. And I was showing my, at the time, 12-year-old, I was kind of joking with him because I got this 20-pound bar so that he could like practice and get good form. And I was like throwing it through and basically threw out my elbow. So I spent about 4 months in physical therapy.
Should have stayed in Denver, dude.
Yeah. Just got that.
Man, this guy.
Wow.
No,
Jeez.
okay, so sorry, that was cold-blooded.
No, I love it.
When Matt came to town, you meet Matt in the world and you're like, holy dude, what have you been doing, man? And because he's really strong. That's what I'm getting at without trying to be as weird as possible.
No, you achieved both. Got it. Keep going.
Yeah, well, I mean, we might have crashed into the mountain there, but and he was telling me how much he could bench because I was asking, right? Because that's what he wasn't just walking around bragging about it, but I was like, hey, come on, dude, come on.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous, okay? It was so much. I was like, I can't even squat that much. That is crazy. And so now every time I see Matt, I'm asking him about it, and he kind of fell off, restoration referral system. He's got all this work to do. And then what is he doing? Showing off for his 12-year-old. throwing out his elbow. Speaking of which, but before I keep making light of this injury, how's your elbow? Is it
my
doing
elbow's
okay?
it's good. Yeah, the few months of physical therapy, I'm good to go. So I had the joke behind that. I at my peak, which is years ago now, benched 465, and which is a lot of weight. And so to get hurt benching 20 pounds is really embarrassing.
Well, I mean, Luke gets hurt benching 165, so I mean, this
Sure.
all makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's my max. He's out here. No, but that is funny, and well, it's funny in light of the fact that you're still functional. Your elbow works again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the irony of lifting extremely heavy weights to then hurt yourself lifting like make-believe amount of weight.
Yeah.
It's funny to me, but I'm sorry that happened.
Do you know what it really is? It's just another harsh example of getting old. It's like, I went over here and I did this, and then it's like, and then I broke my toe on the freezer walking in the garage, or whatever. Like it's bound to happen. Well, Luke, that means aside from his bench press, which will not be included in this voting, we always ask Luke to vote if you're a good contractor. Luke, are you going to give us a thumbs up grade? Oh,
Always
we have a pause.
for Matt Danskin.
Oh, okay, there it is.
I was just trying to get my thumb in there. Now I'm getting the stupid Apple thumb. No, I mean, like, I don't know. What Matt talked about, well, I've known this because I've known Matt for a while, of like, it's about relationships. It's about quality work. It's about integrity. I mean, these are all the right things. And that, what I love is him, like, you knew these things. Like, you knew them probably intuitively. Like, you just know, you sell anything, you kind of learn this stuff. But then the way you looked at your business, and like, I would call it your funnel, of like, oh, I've got all these ways of getting customers, or, of closing deals, and what's working, and looking at it like, I don't know, at a distance, like not just following what everyone else was doing, but stepping back and trying to look, in a sense, with fresh eyes and say, like, if I was helping someone else, what would I tell them? And I would tell them, oh, this thing that you're doing that works 10 times better than everything else, you should do more of that. And that's kind of hard to do, because we want, you put yourself out on a limb. If you do what everyone else is doing, it's like the joke of hiring IBM. Oh, you hire IBM. You'll never get fired for hiring IBM to solve a problem for you. But when you step out on your own judgment and be like, I'm going to do this other weird thing that really, I don't know if anyone else is doing it, and I'm going to turn it into a whole process. And then for that to work, and not only work, but work so well that you can show other people how to do it, is really cool. And so it's one thing to help yourself and to help one business. It's even better to help 500 or whatever number you said, other businesses. And it sounds like the fact that it only keeps working if the quality's there, if they're trusted, if they serve the homeowner, the end customer. And I think that's just good for the market. And so I like it. I say keep it up.
Oh,
One more thing I'll tell Matt that I thought was cool. I was listening to you do an interview, and you actually might have been doing a presentation, but I don't know if it was actually a kind of podcast interview, but you were talking about, to Luke's point, about taking a step back and going, everybody else is doing X. And I loved when you said, like, if I'm out and I door knock on this day, because that's when people are home and that's when there's 30 other people in my market doing it. And I thought, and as someone who's done different types of businesses or been involved with different types of businesses, Luke and I've talked about it many times on this podcast. It's like you get so dead focused on what you're doing that taking a step back and going, now, wait a minute, if I'm doing this, how many people are also doing this? And when is it time for me to pivot away from status quo or standard procedure that everybody knows to do? So I just had to commend you. I love that quote. Like, if I'm out doing this and this is a struggle and everybody else is relying on this, every single one of my competitors are out there and I'm fighting with them for it. I just thought that was cool.
What I think is interesting, I'll talk to guys who door knock, and that's the majority of their business right now. And I'm like, look, door knocking works, right? Like, I've sold millions of dollars in roofs. There's been billions of dollars of roofs sold knocking doors. It works. There's no debate there. But it might not be the most effective thing. It might not be the most efficient thing. And if it's creating customers that are shopping you, if it's creating, I call it Russian roulette with good carriers and bad carriers, that gets you down a whole other inefficient path to getting paid. That may not be the best use of your time. And some guys get it and they're just like, yep, I'm awesome. Let's do it. And some guys don't. For the good contractor thing, my whole deal is bad contractors can't create referral relationships. They can't do it. Like, they will burn those bridges as quick as they can build them. And so it's an area that those good contractors can compete. They're still competing with other good contractors, but they don't have to compete with the bad contractors who can go rattle on somebody's door and go, hey, let me look at this thing. Hey, sign this contract. And they're off to the races. So that's another, huge thing that if you're one of the good guys, whether it's referral relationships, what I do, or something else, like, think about it in terms of where can the bad guys not stand on the same playing field that I can.
Sure.
Door knockers are bad contractors. You heard it here live. Matt Danskin, you're all terrible. If you've ever knocked a door, you're garbage.
Luke, I don't think that's what Matt said there. But no, this has been awesome.
You can edit it to make it say whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, we can make it say whatever we want.
Just running in every storm market,
which is the opposite of being a good contractor. All right, that's how we'll wrap up today's episode. No. Matt, this was awesome, man. Thank you so much for the time. And I hope we could do something like this again. I enjoyed the conversation for sure.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.